Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I want to do a little chatty segment to talk about how my week has been. So today is Friday. Friday is my off day, and this week has been pretty hectic from Monday to Thursday. So a little bit background on what I'm doing on Monday to Thursday. So I work as a GP trainee in the UK. I'm a Malaysian, and if you are aware about how UK's GP are like, so each patient will have about 10 minutes with a doctor, a GP. So as trainees, we are trained to see patients in smaller amounts of time. So your time slots get tightened as you progress. So when I was in second year of training, my time with my patient is about 20 minutes. And I think because this year I've just turned third year, we call it ST3, Specialty Trainee Year 3. So I've just turned ST3, and me and my supervisor decided that I'm ready to go on to a 15 minutes time slot with my patients. And we changed that last week. So in the last week, I think I have 2 days of spending 15 minutes with my patient. I did feel a little bit pressured because the time is such a short time. So basically, during a patient consultation, you need to sort of like read the context of the patient before they come in. And then you need to take a history from the patient, you need to examine them, and you need to do all the forms that are needed, and then to document everything that you have said and done, document them properly, so that you can look back on one day. And then you also have to fill out the form, you have to prescribe the medication, and then you have to do the referrals if there is any referrals needed. So you need to type up a referral to the specialist, including anything that is important in the referral. So in a 15 minutes time frame, it's a pretty hectic for me. I feel pretty pressured and rushed, to be honest. And I didn't want to bring that up to my supervisor last week because I kind of want to give it a go and see if I could get on with this week. It might just be a process of transition. So this week started off with Monday. I came home with a huge migraine because I was running over for 5 minutes each patient. I was spending about 20 minutes per patient. And by the time the last patient, I have about 12 patients or 13 patients in a session in the morning. Like in 3 hour session, I have 13 patients. By the 13th patient, it's probably like half an hour late. And the patient was very mad because their appointment was half an hour earlier. And I think the pressure is like a pressure cooker, and I couldn't handle the pressure. So I decided on Tuesday to speak to my supervisor about it. And then we talk about it and we come to a conclusion. No, we come to a decision, a solution to actually give me a catch-up break in between, 2 catch-up break in between. And that has changed since last Tuesday. I feel so much better with the catch-up break. I feel like I have more time with my patients, even if I run late a little bit, I do have time to catch up. And I feel like it's so important for us as a trainee to speak up if there is anything that we cannot cope during our training. I used to not be the kind of person who will speak up, to be honest with you. I used to be the kind of person who would just accept everything that has been instructed to me. If there is an instruction to me, I feel like it's my responsibility to carry out. And if I can't carry out what has been told to me to do, it's my problem, and it's just my problem. I'm not capable, and it reflects badly on me. I do always think like that before. But I think the training in the UK after so many years have taught me that not being able to cope at the very first when you are a trainee does not reflect on your capabilities as a doctor. You are still pretty good a doctor. It's just that you need the time to transit into a full-fledged GP. A full-fledged GP only have 10 minutes per patient. I do not know how they do that, but I feel like eventually by the end of my training, I still have 15 more months to go. By the end of my training, I probably will feel capable enough to do it 10 minutes and probably a few catch-up breaks as well. So that's that. And I really think that if you are someone who's like me, who dare not speak up and are not assertive enough, I think it's not not a good thing to actually just take on everything that's been told to you to do. And then I don't think it's a good thing. I don't think suppressing what you really feel and not telling your supervisors about your struggles is something to be comment on. It's not a commendable act. I think being able to speak up and have the courage to speak up and tell your supervisor what is really happening so that they can help you is something commendable. I am a proponent of that. So that's my week. Apart from that, it's been okay. I've managed to snuck in 2 sessions of exercise. So I did manage to do a little run on Wednesday evening, and I managed to go to the gym yesterday, even though I feel so tired. Working in medicine is so tiring. I don't know if everyone feels that same way, but I do feel that it's really a tiring job because we take on so much from the patients, from their general troubles to their body illness, to their mental illness, to their family problems, to everything basically. So I think it's important for us to replenish ourselves, and that's my week. I also bought 2 things last week, and one is this beautiful moleskin notebook, which is just a plain line notebook. I saw it on discount on Amazon, and I thought that I need a separate notebook to write my reflections on my Nobel Prize literature reading. So I'm currently trying to read more Nobel Prize literature winners' writing, and I did acquire a series of books, 20 volumes of books written by the Nobel Prize literature winner, which is very easy for me. So Nobel Prize in literature was awarded in 1901, and I have plenty of writers to read, and I thought this notebook would be a little motivation for me to write in. I quite like the paper. It's 100 GSM and it's pretty thick, and I also like the bookmark that they gave. And if you are a moleskin buyer, you will know that there is stickers. I really like the stickers. These are the stickers. And I like the sturdy hardcover. So that would motivate me to read and reflect more. And I also bought this Zebra Sarasa 0.5 pens. I think they are one of the best pens made out there. It is so smooth, and the color is so beautiful because it's vintage color, so they are a little bit dark but not black or typical blue. It's very beautiful on paper, and I like the clips and the, how do you call the clicky thing, that you don't need to lose your covers and then your pen goes dry. And also there is like a soft holder, so your hand doesn't get so painful. I did try several pens. I actually tried this one, the Zebra Z pens, the Zebra Z grip. No, sorry, I tried this Uniball Signal, but I didn't really like it. The ink goes really broken after a while. I also quite like the Pilot V5 before, but I think because I keep losing the covers, I get really fed up about that. And I do also try to use the Pilot G2 0.5, but the ink is not great. I think eventually after so much tries, I still feel like the Zebra Sarasa Vintage color is the best pen, so I'm going to stick with that for now. So that's my purchase. And also last week, I managed to start meditation again. So I have been meditating regularly for many years until I got sick in December 2024. And when I got sick, I really couldn't meditate. And it was like the biggest knock-on on my confidence, because whenever I meditate, when I was ill, when the symptoms are very prominent, the symptoms I experience are like palpitations, very buzzy feeling, very restless, feeling on edge, and a constant buzzing headache. And whenever I meditate, those symptoms become very prominent and it's very uncomfortable. You feel very antsy and it gets worse and worse and worse, and you have to stop. So I weren't able to meditate for properly about 18 months, which is 1.5 years. And I thought I would never be able to meditate regularly again, and it was a very disappointing thing for me, and it's a huge thing for me because I'm a practicing Buddhist, as you can see from my house decor, my room decor. I'm a practicing Buddhist, and practicing Buddhist meditation is one of the most important thing that I would prioritize. Like, I would be meditating 2 hours a day before this. But last week, I was feeling a little bit better, and I thought, why not I give a try? So I started sitting 2 weekends ago, half an hour each time, and then I do it a little bit longer because I felt so calmed, and I think I can do better. So I did a little bit longer and longer. And during weekdays, I try to wake up a little bit early, but I couldn't because I need about 8 to 9 hours sleep nowadays before my migraine starts. And I don't get to bed by 11. It's just a little bit hard for me to go to bed by 10. And I only do have a little bit of time in the morning to meditate, but I try to do it whenever I get to come home early in the evening, or I try to make it a priority over the weekend, which is Friday to Sunday, because I have Friday off. And it's been good. It's been great, I think. I did a 1.5 hour meditation this morning, and my mind was calmer, much calmer. My symptoms are less prominent. They're still there, but I don't reject it anymore. I just sit with it, and I was able to sit with it, and I really liked meditating, and it's such a wonderful thing for me to go back doing, and I really want to prioritize this over the next few weeks or few months, depending on how I feel. Yeah. So that's a good part of my week last week. Having black bean, meat and potatoes and broccoli for dinner today. Itadakimasu. I'm currently reading news of a kidnapping by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and it's very compelling. This is his non-fiction, one of his non-fiction. I initially borrowed it from the library, and I thought I need to get myself a copy because I'm making notes. And this book is about Pablo Escobar drug cartel in Colombia and how he wanted the government to abolish their extradition law, meaning the government can send the drug traffickers to America for punishment, and the punishment in America is very harsh. So Pablo Escobar wanted that to be abolished. The government doesn't want to give in, so what Pablo Escobar did was to twist the government's arm by kidnapping hostages, usually high-ranking officers and journalists, and these are the details of what has happened during that time. It's a very compelling read. Hello! So last week I wanted to explore some Latin American literature, which is literature written in the South America or by South Americans author, or stories set in South America. And I borrowed several books from the library, and these are the books that I have read last week. It's going to be hard for me to carry out. Yeah. There you go. These are the books that I've read last week. And I want to do a review of them quickly with you from my least favorite to the most favorite. The first book I want to talk about is Borges' Ficciones. This is a very recommended book. It's recommended everywhere. But sadly, I wasn't able to appreciate it. It went above my head. So this is a book containing many short stories about fictions. So maybe because I'm not very literate, I'm not very well versed in terms of Latin American literature. So I couldn't catch the reference, or I couldn't understand most of it. I don't know the significance of it. Like, there are stories about other writers. There are stories about other writers' stories. And I think the only short story that I did enjoy was The Garden of Walking Paths, which I think was pretty good. So that's that. And the second book I read was The Soccer War by Kapuncinski. I sort of like it, but not entirely. I would rate it about 3 stars. So Kapuncinski is a journalist, and this book is sort of his memoir. It talks about his journalism in 50 different countries. He tends to go into Africa and he tends to go into South America to report the political instability and the wars going around there. And it's a little bit fragmented. To be honest with you, I did get a bit confused, and I didn't really get hit or tail by reading this book, only because maybe my history wasn't that good, and it was a very fragmented telling rather than a proper non-fiction. I think I would benefit better reading a non-fiction book from South America. So if you have any recommendations, I did like to have some of them. The third one is Samantha Schweblin, Fever Dream. So Samantha Schweblin is a Latin American writer, and this is my first book of hers. It is shortlisted as the Man Booker International Prize in 2017. And it's very hallucinatory read. It's about a lady on her deathbed, and there is this voice who is called David whispering in her ears, trying to encourage her to recollect her life. And it's very hallucinatory. I just remember that she keeps thinking about Nina, her daughter, and there is a lot of attachment to her daughter, trying to find her daughter. And David is whispering very irrelevant things into her ears, asking her to find the moment. Where is the worms? Is it the moment now? It's very hallucinatory. It's like a fever dream. It's literally said on the cover. I want to like it, but I didn't really enjoy it that much. I would give it 2.5 stars for this one. And the subsequent book I've read is Gabriela Camara's The Adventures of China Iron, published by Charco Press. I did enjoy this one. Honestly, I would give it 3 out of 5 stars. This book is about the adventures of China Iron. China Iron is the name of a person. She is the wife of a cowboy who is pretty useless. The cowboy is pretty useless. So one day China decided that she has had enough and she's going to run away from home. So she joined a Scottish lady called Elizabeth, and they went on an adventure. So this book chronicles their adventure. So along the way, they cooked steak called asado, and they met several people. So one of the people they met is a person, an English person who has a very strong colonizer mindset, and this book critiques the colonizer mentality. So this Englishman keep thinking that Latin America's people is very backward, and he's there to actually discipline them and to teach them how to live their life, which is very rude, to be honest. And this book also chronicles Gina's awakening to her own sexuality. She's awakened to her bisexuality one day when she realized that she's in love with Elizabeth and they have sexual intercourse with each other. I believe that this is a reinvention of Argentinian's classic literature, which I've not read, but in a queer and feminist manner. So if people who are Argentinian, they probably will enjoy this much more than me. So this is the book that I've just talked about. So the next book I read was Cousins by Aurora Venturini, and I think this is a pretty good one. I would recommend this one. Cousins is about 4 girls who are deemed abnormal by society. So Yuna, the protagonist, is slightly mentally challenged, and Yuna has a sister who has probably spina bifida because she has a tail. Yuna has 2 other cousins who are female cousins. One of them a dwarf. One of them is a dwarf, and the other one is severely mentally challenged. And this book speaks about how this book speaks about the relationship between 4 of them. And Yuna secretly despises her sister and thinks she looks ugly and deformed. And she calls her sister like a slobbering mess. And then this book, with unflinching prose, describes how she hates her sister and her cousin. This book also addressed how other people in the society, people who are deemed intellectually normal, treats these women who are different from them. It's very, very sad to read because these girls are very vulnerable and men actually take advantage of them. One of them was being raped, and after going through an abortion, she died. One of them has to work as a prostitute because she cannot find other work. And there was this one man who kept coming over to ask for oral sex from this lady. And eventually this lady becomes very angry and killed this man. So this book is very wild, very depraved, very raw and unflinching. It's a very honest look at society treatment towards vulnerable girls or women, and also very convoluted women relationship with each other. I would recommend to people who actually love My Brilliant Friend, so the Neapolitan novel series. If you like Elena Ferrante, I think you would like this. So this is my one of my favorite books from last week that I would recommend. My penultimate favorite from last week's reading is Hurricane Season by Fernanda Melchor. This is the first work I read from this author, and I really love her, and I'm trying to seek out other English translated books from her. To be honest with you, it wasn't easy for me to get into this work. I did have to try twice before eventually got engaged into the book and got going. But once I got going, it was brilliant. And so this book started off when a witch in a rural Mexico city was being killed and was found dead. And so this is not a murder mystery. So the murder of the witch is just a very surface event for us to explore deeper themes in this small claustrophobic city. And with each chapter, Fernanda brings us to the perspective of 4 to 5 different characters to give us fragmented stories from this rural Mexico society, which eventually you have a feeling for at the very end. And there are 5, I think, important characters. One of them is a very emasculated man called Monroe. His wife is a prostitute, and he doesn't know where his wife is going, and he doesn't have an aim in life. He is full of despair, right? And the second character is Norma, who is a very young girl, 13 years old she is, and she is being impregnated by her stepfather. And because she doesn't know what to do and she doesn't want to break up the relationship of a mum and a stepfather, she ran away from home, and she ran away to the home of Chabela, who is the third important character. Chabela is a very kind woman, despite she works as a prostitute. Chabela works as a prostitute, and she knows how to have an abortion. So she brought Norma to this witch to get a potion for abortion and try to save Norma. And the next important character is the witch. So the witch is a very gender ambiguous character in this book. We don't actually know what gender he or she is. Sometimes there is the pronouns of male pronouns are used. Sometimes female pronouns are used. Sometimes people describe her as a man dressing up in women's clothing. And through her, we can see how transphobic and homophobic that society is. And the witch is actually someone in the community that helps the very neglected people. So she helped this young lady who are pregnant and prostitute who are pregnant to have an abortion, because there is no other ways they could have an abortion. The last important character is Brando. So Brando is a boy, is a young man who has internal homophobia. He has homophobic tendencies, but he hates transsexuals. So knowing that the witch is probably transsexual, he's out to kill the witch. He has a plan to kill the witch. And he's also being pressured by society as well, because he thinks the witch does not behave like how men should do. So it's very beautifully written. Beautiful is not the right word, I'm sorry. It's very grotesque, it's very brutal, it's very raw and very unflinching, I would say. You might feel a little bit disgusted when you read it, but I think that is the exact visceral sensation that Fernanda Melchor wants us to feel. She wants us to feel the claustrophobia, the oppressiveness, the transphobia and the homophobia, the misogyny, the poverty, the neglect in Mexico rural society. And it delivers beautifully. She delivers it beautifully. And I'm yearning to read more from her. So that's my second favorite, and I'm going to go into my favorite book. And lastly, but not the least, my absolute favorite would be Our Share of Night by Mariana Enriquez. I love this book so much. I wish that someone would have worded it stronger or pulled me by the neck and forced me to read it when it was first published. So this book was published in 2022 in English translation. It was originally written in Spanish, and it's so brilliant that it had me on a chokehold for 1.5 days. I couldn't do anything. I remember I had to have a book that I could get lost in because there was the war between Iran and Israel, and I don't want to read the news. So I picked up this book and hope that it does its work. And it does it so brilliantly. I was completely engrossed and I couldn't stop reading. And the pages flew by so fast. It's a 723 pages book, but every page is so amazing, and you just propel through it so quickly. And I highly recommend it to you if you haven't read it. So let me tell you something about this book without spoiling it for you. So Mariana Enriquez filled this book with cult, ghosts, possessions, gothic horror. And she creates this very disquieting and very ominous and very dark atmosphere that you feel like as though someone is tapping you on the back, and you look backwards and there's nothing there. She managed to create this kind of visceral sensation in you. So this book follows a father and a son. The father is named Juan and the son is named Gaspar. So Juan has an ability, a special ability to speak to the dead. And he can reach out into darkness, so he can speak to the darkness and get some intelligence from darkness. Juan is an Irish person. he has an illness called tetralogy of Fallot, which is a heart disease. Because he's so poor, his family sold him off to a very rich family in Mexico. And this rich family in Mexico is in a cult. So their cult pray towards the order. The cult pray towards the order and they listen to the order. They believe that Juan is a medium. So through Juan, they believe that they can continue their consciousness in Juan's body because Juan could teach them how to do that. And so these rich people bought Juan, acquire him, and brought him into the family and uses him. And fortunately or unfortunately, Juan fell in love with the daughter of the rich family. Or the daughter of the rich family fell in love with Juan, and they have a child named Gaspar. Gaspar inherited the father's ability to speak to the dead, and he also can talk to darkness, and he can have several powers. So when the rich family knows that Gaspar has this ability, they wanted to have him to themselves. They wanted to use him to continue their consciousness. Right. So Juan tries to prevent this from happening by using several means, including deliberately harming the child by marking him with a wound so that the order cannot track him down. Juan loves the child. Juan doesn't want to continue his consciousness in his child and doesn't want anyone else to continue their consciousness in the child. The brilliant side of this book is not just the gothic horror. It is also how Mariana Enriquez wanted to deliver to us the atmosphere of political instability and oppression during 1976 Argentina. So in 1976, there is something called a dirty war in Argentina where there is widespread state-sponsored abduction, oppression, killing, mass killing of people. And people are being very fearful and they are very disquieted. So Mariana actually talks about this halfway or 3/5 the way into the book. There is actually a small segment about several researchers found a mass grave where there are bones that are not being identified, which is the bodies of people who are being abducted and killed and tortured during 1976 to 1983 during the dirty war in Argentina. So this book blends narrative journalism and fiction, which is amazing. It is so well done, it is so well delivered and so well executed. I was impressed by it. I don't think I've read something so beautifully done after The Covenant of Water early this year. And I highly recommend it. I did some research after that just to try to understand this book better and learn about the Argentinian War in 1976, the Argentinian state repression in 1976. And apparently Mariana uses this book as an allegory to describe the war. And the order represents military dictatorship, and Gaspar represents someone growing up in this kind of dictatorship. And the cults represent the rich people who are turning a blind eye, looking at these poor people being killed and abducted and being tortured. So I think, how brilliant is this? I mean, she's amazing. And I'm looking for the other two books by her, which is The Dangers of Smoking in Bed, and I think this is like the Sunny Side for Shady People. I'm waiting for my library reservations because my library holds them, which I'm grateful for. I don't need to spend more money on them. So this is my favorite book out of the last week that I spent reading Latin America's literature. I really recommend it. Let me be the one that holds you, choke you, pulls you by the tie and your collar and make you read this book. Let me be that person. And thank me later. That's all about books this week. Thank you.